Welcome back to the DLLS Mavs podcast. The Mavericks on a little bit of a run right now, having won 4 straight as they get ready to play the Los Angeles Lakers, hopefully, on Saturday night. And joining me here is our All-City Network teammate, of course, ESPN in-studio and game analyst, former Dallas Maverick, of course. He is the homie, Tim Legler. Tim, what's going on?
What's up, man? Good. Just trying to see what's going to transpire here over the next several days with big games, weather all over the country. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazier now what's going on. But we got these last couple of weeks before we head into All-Star break. So we call them the dog days for a reason. And the weather's part of it. I've said it before. It's not just that you're tired and a little bit beat up mid-season. It's also because everywhere you go is cold. And we're finding that out right now.
For sure, as we are exactly 2 weeks away from the NBA All-Star break, and we are that much closer to the NBA trade deadline as well. Let's just start here, Tim, because this is a Mavericks team that lost 15 of their first 20 games, but since then, in their last 25, they're 14-11 and playing a little bit better basketball, even without the services of Anthony Davis and the injuries to guys like Daniel Gafford and others. What's been the biggest difference in your mind based off of the first 20 games versus the last 25 with the Mavericks here in your mind?
Well, first of all, that 5-15 to me, looking at the totality of that, felt like it should have been more like 8-12, 9-11, right? Like a little bit closer to 500. They had a couple things going on. I mean, they were good defensively at the beginning of the year. They did not have the across-the-board contributions offensively that they're getting now. And there's too many guys right now that are contributing. Where the defense, wasn't enough at the beginning of the year. Now the defense is good enough if you get enough guys making shots and they close games. And that's kind of what's going on to me because the defense is still really good. They compete hard. They're versatile. That's been there all year. What has not been there is consistent shot making or supplemental offense from other guys. And, nights when you're expecting a rookie 18 turning 19 to like carry you offensively or make every right play or right read when AD went down, like that's not practical. That you're not winning in the NBA that way. So look at the number of guys that are playing well offensively right now. You can talk about Naji, you can talk about certainly Max Christie, but other guys like Brandon Williams has played really well. Klay Thompson has played significantly better than he did at the beginning of the year. Cooper continues to, do what he's doing, but even more efficient. So I think that's what happened. The offense caught up to the defense. And when that happens, you close out games you weren't before. You're able to win games that you were not winning beginning of the year. I think that's probably the best summation.
Yeah, this is a team in the last 25 games that's 8th in points per game, number 1 in field goal percentage, and have gotten all the way up to 11th in terms of three-point percentage during that time span, and have found the way to be not necessarily a great offense, but within the top 20, which is something that we had not been able to say in the first 20 games for this team, as poor as they were offensively, while still maintaining a top 10 defensive rate during that 25-game span as well. And, of course, you mentioned him a little bit because Cooper Flagg has been sensational so far this year, and over his last 20 games, averaging over 20 points per game, giving you over 48% from the field, still only shooting 31% from three during that time. But at the same time, the growth in his offensive game, I remember we had a conversation earlier this year about look out about 20 to 25 games in for him and how his offensive maturity and his aggressiveness continues to grow. And we're really seeing that here, especially over the last 20 games with the growth in his offensive game. What have you seen from him?
I just think you're talking about, a guy that's got all the talent necessary, right? He's got the talent to drive. He's got the size, the versatility. It's all there. So what you really need is just reps at the NBA level. You just need reps, man. It's a comfortability factor that any player needs to acquire. Very few hit the ground running and are dominant immediately. Very few. Most rookies, regardless of if you're 18 or you're 21, you come into the league, you just need time, even if you're the number one pick. And I think when you watch him now, nothing looks too fast for him. Nothing looks like it's like, okay, this massive adjustment. Even though when he was adjusting beginning of the year, it wasn't like anybody was worried about it. Like it was obviously he's got it. I think he's a can't miss, right? He just has all that you need and require. The IQ on top of that. So it just took getting comfortable every night. You carry yourself a little bit of a different swagger. You have a different level of expectation. Beginning of any rookie's career, first 20, 25 games, you don't even have expectations. You're just trying to figure out what this league is. Like, what's this feel like every night? And there's the awe factor, the cool factor. You're walking down these floors you've been watching since you were a kid. Like, that's there. Like, you're soaking it all in. It's coming at you 100 miles an hour. You're playing against the best players in the world. All right, we're halfway through the season now. He's seen everybody once for the most part. Like, he's seen every arena. It's now at the point where you go, okay, now I have expectations when I leave my house. Before I get to the arena, I'm expecting certain things to happen in my production to be a certain level. But I think the first 30, 40 games for any rookie is more like you're just trying to get through it and soak it all in. And none of it feels completely natural. It does now for him, and it's obvious. And he's got great leadership qualities, even for a young guy. So, man, they've been fun to watch. I'm giving them a lot of credit because you have to come ready to play against them, or else they're going to hit you with one. These aren't just hollow wins either. By the way, look at the list of wins. They've got signature wins. Got the Rockets a couple of times, the Denver a couple of times. You got Detroit in there. You got the Knicks. I mean, these are contenders, and this is the series of wins that they've had here, over the last month or so.
And Cooper Flagg has gotten some real help from a couple of guys that have really turned the corner in terms of their performance in Naji Marshall and Max Christie, who've both been terrific this year. And honestly, and I would love to get your opinion on this, I think have played themselves into the most improved player race conversation, particularly Naji Marshall and his growth. What have you seen? We'll start with Max Christie, who's become a top 5 3-point shooter percentage-wise in the league this year. Let's start with Max Christie. What have you seen in terms of the growth of his game and how he's expanded with his role here?
I think for Christie, it's simply a matter of opportunity equals confidence. I mean, I think that's what we're seeing with him because, even prior to this streak, right, he was out there, they liked his defense. The shots were sporadic. They were spaced out. Very hard to get in a rhythm. The minutes were fairly inconsistent. Now he's getting minutes at a consistent level. He's touching the ball at a consistent level. They're running action for him. He's anticipating the next shot. He's looking forward to the next shot. It's a completely different mindset when you are anticipating like every trip up the floor. Not only anticipating, you're trying to make shots happen, as opposed to, similar to what I just said about Cooper, you're kind of just out there, like, just kind of basically reacting. What he's doing now, he's acting. And it's a big difference just in terms of your confidence level when you're forcing things to happen for yourself rather than sitting back and waiting to collect the crumbs or whatever's left of an offensive possession. That's what's different to me because again, he's got the ability, the shooting stroke. You give a guy like that enough confidence where he strings together some games, some minutes, some shots, this is kind of what's going to happen if the talent is there, which it has been.
Yeah, of course, hit a career-high 8 3-pointers in that win against the Knicks on Martin Luther King Day. And another guy who's been terrific, just had a 30-point, 9-assist, 7-rebound game in the game against the Warriors the other night. Naji Marshall's been terrific. What has been – we call him the float god in there a lot of respects, and we also call him the knife as well because he's slicing and dicing defenses all the time. Shoots 65% on floaters this year. What has been the biggest turnaround in his game in terms of what he's been able to do to improve?
I think the fact that he's needed more than he's been prior in his career. Earlier in his career, and certainly since he's been in Dallas, it was more like the role was defined because there were better offensive players on the floor, so it was going to be like mostly defend. And again, you kind of take what's left offensively, and that's not the case now. Now he's a guy that's included. And when you feel included, man, it empowers you. Like his efficiency's been off the charts. He's not shooting the three particularly well, but every other area of the floor he is. And he's playing really hard defensively. He gives them a toughness. It's obvious, like those games that get physical when it looks like it's maybe going to turn into a street fight. He's ready for that. Like he likes that atmosphere. This team needs that for mental toughness. So I think really what we're describing for all of these guys is opportunity. The opportunity's increased. And so when you talk about most improved player in the conversation, and I agree with you, these are a couple names you can add to the list. There's some really good candidates this year. I mean, you got a guy like Colin Gillespie in Phoenix is really, I think, turned a lot of heads, from where he's come, right? Peyton Watson what he's doing right now in Denver. These guys are showing like all of them ceilings you didn't know existed for them, right? The much higher ceilings than we thought those guys would be as NBA players. And there's more guys around the league. I'd be remiss if I tried to mention them, I'd leave somebody out. But those two guys jumped to mind, as well as the two guys you're talking about on Dallas. And I think sometimes we call it most improved player. Really what it is most improved opportunity. That's really what a lot of these times the award goes to. And look, they've earned the opportunity. Don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of dudes in the league right now that aren't playing or aren't playing a lot of minutes or aren't part of rotation that could do similar things if they got the time. For whatever reason, they're not in that boat because everybody in this league is capable of doing it. The opportunity presents itself. The guys that kick the door in when the door's cracked, they're the ones now that break through to become candidates for that award. And then you also say, you know what? These guys are good to go now for the rest of their career. They're going to be long-term NBA players, rotational players, most of them on good teams probably. So I think those two guys are in that category.
And that gets us to this, because speaking of long-term, we thought Luka Doncic would be in a Mavericks uniform for the long-term and the duration of his career. Obviously, we are almost a year removed from the trade that rocked the entire NBA, really the sports world, when Luka Doncic was traded to the Los Angeles Lakers in exchange for Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and what was a 2029 first-round pick. What has stuck out to you as these two teams get ready to play each other on Saturday night? Two organizations in two completely different places heading into this game. What has stuck out to you most in the days and weeks since that February 1st trade between the Mavericks and the Lakers?
Well, I think from Dallas's perspective first, I look at the situation and look at the amount of time that Anthony Davis has missed. You haven't seen Kyrie Irving. And I go, man, all things considered, like they've done about as well as they can. And they found, Max Christie's getting a much greater opportunity there than he was getting in LA, and he's jumping all over that. So that's a find. Overall, I'm going to say this. I still think the risk reward was not there for this trade to take place. If I'm the Mavericks, it's just not. Luka Doncic is too young, too dominant offensively. He'd already been to the finals. I know there's a lot of stuff about him that, you can certainly question his defensive effort at times, his leadership, the stuff with the officials, like all that stuff's valid. But this is one of the most dominant offensive players this league has seen. And at his age, having had some postseason success and been very good in pressure moments in the playoffs, to me, it just was not worth it to take that risk. And I'm going to feel that way probably forever. 30 years from now, Luka Doncic will be out of the league. Anthony Davis will be out of the league. Max Christie will be out of the league by then, right? I'll be an old man, and I'll be, reflecting on my career and the stuff that I saw in the league. And I'm going to probably still say they never should have made that trade. And that's just the way I feel about it. And look, by the way, I've been critical of Luka at times since he's been in LA. It's not like this. I don't see the warts, they're there. I understand that. I still don't think you can justify that trade for the guy that age with that kind of talent. And there's a reason those trades haven't taken place in the NBA ever.
Sure.
Right? There's a reason.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I look at it, the big picture. But look, the Lakers, they are a massive question mark. They are so bad defensively some nights they don't give themselves a chance. I don't know that the chemistry's great. Look, they've gone a long stretch without Austin Reeves, who's a really high-level player. So we got to, we got to take that into consideration. But it's not like everything's worked out exactly the way the Lakers planned at all. So there's a lot to prove for Luka in LA. And by the way, it's not just this year. That trade for me is going to be about the next 10 years.
Sure. What
does Luka Doncic do with the next 10 years in a Lakers uniform or beyond that or whatever? Because that really ultimately is how we're going to judge this trade, right? That's how we're going to judge it. Does he get it done? Does he win a title? Not just MVPs, because he probably could get an MVP or two. Who knows? He's that good. Can he win titles? And if he does, then we're really going to look back on this trade and just kind of scratch our heads as to why you'd make that trade. But listen, they're far away from that. The Lakers, the way they look defensively, the number of teams at the top of the West. So this is going to take years to play out before we really put it in full context. But right now, it certainly hasn't turned out, I don't think, for the Lakers the way they expected when they got him and paired him with LeBron. That's a team that still struggles some nights to win because of their defensive personnel and effort.
I'll get you out of here on this one as both of these teams head into this game on Saturday night. What do you want to see, particularly from the Mavericks, as they get ready to head to the All-Star break, where they're playing a really difficult set of games as they take on a Lakers team that's still fighting for a top 6 spot in the Western Conference here?
I think the key is this. You got a team like the Lakers. You need to be able defensively, they can be really hard to guard, and the Mavericks are a really good defensive team. That's going to be their number one challenge. Can you take advantage of this team in transition and off dribble penetration the way everybody else is? Because I wouldn't consider the Mavericks a high-powered offensive team. They're sort of sporadic in that regard. This is a team you can get because of defensively the way they change ends of the floor, the way you can beat guys off penetration and break them down on their back line. Like you have to have that approach. Like, this is a night you want to see the Mavericks put up 125, 130 points. Like, you have to be thinking that going into the game. And then if your defense is as good as it is most nights, they're going to be in great shape. But that's how I would look at it. Like, this is a team defensively that can be had. And if you're the Mavericks, you need to go out there and do that and prove that, because a lot of teams are doing that to the Lakers.
Yeah, the Mavericks have been one of the best teams in the league in terms of transition and fast break points this year, and they've really exploited that against teams that will look to do that against the Lakers team that, yes, has Luka Doncic, but it also has a 41-year-old LeBron James who can be had at times, especially in defensive transition. Tim, it's always good to talk to you, my friend, and good to see you as well. We appreciate the time, as always, here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. Stay safe out there in this weather, man. It's wild, and we appreciate you hanging out with us on the DLLS Mavs podcast, man. Always good to talk to you.
Always good. Talk to you next time.
Appreciate it.